Hey everybody, Will here and welcome to the Book Barrel. Today we'll be taking a look back over the month of June. If this is your first time here, thanks so much for stopping by. If you want more videos like these, please consider subscribing to this channel and don't forget to turn on your notifications. Alright guys, so if you saw my June TBR, then you already know that I took part in two different reading events. There was the Read Caribbean, and then there's also the Throwback-a-thon. For the Read Caribbean, I chose to read A Brief History of 7 Killings by Marlon James. First, I'm going to recommend that you all go by Kieran's page, Katie Books. He did a review recently of the Brief History of 7 Killings, and I think it was spot on. He covered a lot of the points in such an elegant way that I wouldn't be able to emulate. I'm going to link him down below if you want to see a full-on literary critique. I just want to say that book is super. That's a really super book. It's super long. It's super complex. It's super confusing at parts. It's super graphic. It's super violent. I characterize this type of storytelling as like a stream of consciousness for each character, and then once you compile all those together, a story starts to emerge. And I think that's where the accolades come in. That's where the real skill is seen, is that you can try to do a non-traditional style of storytelling, and the fact that a story can really emerge from the way that he decided to tell it in the format that he had, and that you can still connect with the characters. You can still be invested in what's going on, and it's rich. I mean, I think that's also another thing that aided him in this particular story. So focusing on the characters in the way that he does, it makes it difficult to follow the narrative, but it makes it easy to pick up this feeling. Like, all the characters have a feeling, like they have an aura, they have a mood, they have something that you get encapsulated in as the reader. And so whether they be on drugs, whether they be afraid, fearful of their lives, whether they be going on a rampage, whatever the tone or the mood of that particular character at that time is, you get enveloped in that. And I think that was one of the powerful things about this one. It was just difficult to read because it's so graphic because of the level of violence. There's a lot of derogatory and also profane language. There's the element of the patois, and then there's also some really explicit sex scenes as well. So the scope of the story, whether it be the time frame, the amount of people that were covered, the subject matter, that just made it a more difficult story to tell. And I don't know, it could have went a lot of ways, but I'm glad he did what he did. In his acknowledgments at the end of the book, he does say he started to research this book, and he kind of was getting the story together, and he was having difficulty on trying to figure out, how do I have continuity in the narrative strand? And I think that's reflected the way that this story is told. I enjoyed it. I thought it was pretty dope. The other reading event that I took part in, as you all know, is the Throwback-a-thon. For the Throwback-a-thon, I did finish 3 out of 5 books, so we'll get started with the 2 books that I DNF'd. The Unthinkable Thoughts of Jacob Green by Joshua Braff. The other book that I DNF'd was The Spirit Eater by Rachel Aaron. I do want to speak on Circe by Madeline Miller. It took me about a quarter of the book to get used to, like, okay, this is just how it's gonna be. So I'm used to like a more Spartan, laconic type of writing style where less is more. Her style is more like a garden, like it's kind of sprawling across the pages, and the words, the sentences kind of intertwine together and bloom into this beautiful panoply of wordplay. And that's just not what I was used to, and so that took some adjusting, but I really appreciated it. I thought that she was an excellent writer, and I would read more of her work. This particular book fell flat for me simply because of the fact that I just wasn't interested in Circe. Any other character would have been more interesting than Circe was, in my honest opinion. And it kind of put me in the mind of like Forrest Gump. So if you've seen the movie Forrest Gump, you know, Forrest is cool, but what really makes the story is that the fact that Forrest being Forrest and still being taking part in so many of these historical events in U.S. history, like unbeknownst to him, right? So she's being a part of so much epic stuff that's going on, and you kind of want to just like sit her down and let's go follow some of these other people, because they're just so much cooler. But I will say one of the things that I do like about stories that deal with deities is just like, where do we draw the line? All of the deities that we come across are very human in nature, and it's like, what sets you all apart? And I think that's also an interesting piece of Circe's maturation, because we see her from her birth, and from her birth she took on an adult form like pretty quick, but she was a child. Like, she was immature, she just didn't know what was going on, she just didn't get it for the majority of the book. I don't think it was until she had Telegonus that she actually started to wisen up a little bit and just like see what the world was really, what was going on. And then, you know, from there, I think she took a trajectory that a lot of people take. You wake up to the reality of things and life ain't sweet, and she got jaded and she just went on a rampage. And while she was raging, like, I would have loved to see what anybody else in the book was doing at that time. I know it sounds